Hi, I am here today to talk about why do you focus on grief in your practice? Um, and the answer that I've gotten from uh, those of you therapists who have been focused on would include loss and grief in your practice again over and over again. It's no surprise is that it there was something that moved you personally, of your own loss or experiencing the suffering of somebody else that you loved, or the suffering of a distant one, but that there's almost always this personal connection, and frankly, you can't be you can't be a human being, much less a therapist, without having experienced grief, without having experienced many different types of losses and the impact of those losses. So I'm actually I'm gonna see if I can't I can't see if there's any comments. If there is, or you're here, please say hi. Or if you catch this on the replay, go ahead and put in their replay so that I know that you were here. So the first question that I had, which was, how do you support and grieve the personal part for you of grief? And, grief is already isolating on top of it. And then being in private practice is isolating, especially for those of us who are mostly online. Then it's even more isolating because you don't have anybody else to connect with, um, in the hallway, another therapist usually. Okay. There's also the expectation that we put on ourselves as the helpers, as the grief helpers. This expectation that I already know how to do grief, and this is my expert. This is my specialty, or this is what I focus on. And the problem is, that so doesn't take the pain out of it. I wish that it did. I wish that it did. I remember after my dad died of this expectation for myself of, I teach this stuff, I should know this stuff. And no, that doesn't lessen our own pain at all. It just doesn't. And but to pay attention to that expectation that we have on ourselves. And then there's also the expectation that we receive and the feedback verbally and non-verbally from our friends, from our family, of their assumptions of, but this is what you do, is that you help grievers. And so again, it shouldn't be surprising to you, or it shouldn't be as upsetting to you. So really pay attention to, a lot of it is our own expectations of ourselves, that we should, really be able to get through this a lot easier because we know what we're doing. No, that doesn't apply personally. So here's the second question that I put out there, which is, how does it come up for you in different ways with clients? A client might be experiencing a loss that is very familiar or very similar to one that you have lost, that you have had personally. Could be another client who's experiencing multiple losses and in an enormous amount of grief pain, and you pick up on the overwhelm of that and start becoming overwhelmed yourself. And oh my gosh, where do we start? What do we do? Okay. And then that can throw you off if you're having an off day, that it's harder to find, your own grounding and your own footing. And so, I know, I remember a client that came in whose brother was dying, and she had, I had self-disclosed to her that my brother had died from cancer, which is what her brother had, and was terminal. And I remember her one day asking me, so, what was it like? And what she was really asking was, am I going to be able to get through this? Okay, because that's what we really have to listen to. Now, this is also, I'm not going to go into a whole lot about self-disclosure. I think it's on a continuum, but we always want to remember what's the point, what's the reason for the expectation. I mean, for the disclosure. So, but that can bring up stuff for you, because I know for me, I don't know about you guys, but actually I do know about you guys, is that we can't do this work, especially in the field of dealing with loss and grief, without our hearts being attached. We just can't. I can't. I can put my stuff aside, but it's in there. Okay, it's in there. I remember when one of my clients had AIDS, and the family asked me to come to the hospital and be there when he died, and it was such an incredible honor. And I remember that I was, when I left the hospital, I called my husband to let him know that I was going to be a little late to the office, and could he just let my next clients know I was going to be a little late. And that's not what came out of my mouth. What came out of my mouth was, Joe died. And I realized, oh, I'm a griever too. So sometimes our grief is about the loss of our clients in different ways too. Those losses, sometimes they are discharged, or they terminating, or therapy is ending on a good note. There's still grief in there, and there's still our own grief. Okay. Pay attention to. I was also thinking about pay attention to the disconnect within you that comes up when it's hitting something in us personally. That disconnect can look like I'm looking at the clock more, and it feels like a really, really long hour, or I'm feeling more distracted, or it's or I'm getting irritated, or it might be that you sense that you become very impatient with our clients' progress in therapy, or we also call it stuckness. Okay. Oh, they're stuck in their grief. And a lot of times that also brings up our own helplessness. And so much of grief is about helplessness, and how to deal with that, and how to manage that, and how to be able to help support your client through that helplessness. Now, my other question that I put out there was, how does it come up for you at different times in your life? Sometimes we're surprised by our own reactivity to something that happened so many years ago, that all of a sudden feels so fresh. I remember recently, actually a few months ago, finding a note that my mom had written, and being so moved by that. Now, my mom died more than 30 years ago, and but it brought up that sadness and that yearning to be able to talk to her about what she wrote from a very, very different perspective now. So, community is often the most effective form of self-care, but it has to be a really safe community. That's actually why I created the private practice grief group, is because for many of us, this is our calling of doing grief work. And yet we have to make sure that we support each other in order to be able to do our work and be able to help others in the world, be able to help, I think, change the world to be softer and kinder. So, lean on each other, reach out to each other, as many, many, many of you do here in the private practice grief group. It warms my heart when I see how incredibly supportive all of you are, and those of you who have seen other Facebook groups that's for therapists, we're not always supportive of each other, so that's really important. I do have a grief burnout group, support group starting next week. It's on Friday. It's on Friday morning. That's here in California. And so I'll put a link up after this if you want to sign up. But I really just wanted to be able to share a few of those thoughts with you in order to connect us. So thank you. If you have any questions at all, go ahead and put them in the chat or comments, or email me, debbiefrankel@gmail.com. Thanks.